Greetings, brothers and sisters in Christ. On March 3rd, we celebrate the 8th Sunday of Ordinary Time. This coming Wednesday is Ash Wednesday, the beginning of the great season of Lent. I think it's interesting to note that we rarely get to celebrate the 8th Sunday of Ordinary Time because by now we're already into Lent. The latest that Ash Wednesday can ever come is March 10th, and here we are on March 3rd. Also, one way to note our liturgical season is dated based on the time of Easter. Easter is the first Sunday after the first full moon of the vernal or spring equinox. So once we figure out when that is, then we count back 6 weeks, 40 days plus, and come to Ash Wednesday. That time kind of moves around on our calendar, and that's why Easter sometimes is earlier, sometimes later. So this 8th Sunday, the first reading from the book of Sirach. Sirach is also known as Ecclesiasticus. It's a reading of wisdom from one of the wisdom books of the Bible, like the book of Psalms or the book of Proverbs. So today we have almost like a fortune cookie, some wisdom for us. When a sieve is shaken, the husks appear, so do one's faults when one speaks. In other words, praise no one before he or she speaks. So we find just simple things that by our speech we reveal much about who we really are. And then that idea is continued over into today's gospel as we go back to chapter 6 of the Gospel of Luke. This is the end of the Sermon on the Plain, the end of a teaching that began with the Beatitudes. And then last week we heard to love our enemies. And today we are hearing, can a blind person guide a blind person? Actions speak louder than words. So we know that our speech is important. It reveals our inner self, but our actions also reveal much. And we know that. We say that faith is often caught more than it is taught. I grew up in a family where I watched my mother and father pray, and I learned how to pray. I watched my family as we worshiped, and I learned how to worship. I caught the gift of faith, and I'm so blessed by that and grateful for that. I remember as a young priest once, I preached a funeral homily, and I was very unsatisfied with how I did. And an older priest was present, and he just simply said to me, Father Jim, people won't remember much of what you say, but they'll remember entirely how you treated them. And then he smiled and he said, you treated them just fine. I learned much by that. Our actions do speak very loud. There's an educational principle that says it's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. Let me say that again. If I want to be a more giving person, I start acting like a more giving person, and pretty soon my being is changed. If I want to be a more joyful person, I start acting like a joyful person, and pretty soon my being is changed. So our actions do speak loudly. And our goal for all of this is Jesus Christ. We want to imitate his action. We want to imitate his attitude. Let Christ transform you, then he will come from within you into the world.